everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Beltzor.
And welcome to this week's weekly recap, right before the upcoming football game. We're kind of back into our swing of things, we're doing the multiple episodes a week thing, but we're just going to dive straight into this episode. We have a little bit of soccer to cover, a little bit of volleyball, and then of course we're going to give our brief-ish thoughts on the depth chart because, a lot of people have sort of talked about it already, so we're just going to give our shorter thoughts about it. But let's just go ahead and start with the K-State soccer match up against Vanderbilt. This was K-State's first true loss on the year. It was a 1-0 loss in Vanderbilt, and it was a game that ultimately came down to the wire. But, you never want to lose, ever, but, sometimes it's understandable, other times it's not, but I think this is one of the times where it's understandable. Plus, we knew that these losses were going to come eventually.
Yeah, and it was a pretty closely contested game, at least from what we can tell.
Yeah. We don't have SEC Network Plus, so.
Yeah, so we weren't able to watch, but we were able to generally keep up with the stats that were going on. The only goal that was conceded was on a penalty that came off of a yellow card from Maddie Weichel, which seemed to be an ill-advised foul in the box. Well, I imagine any foul in the box is ill-advised because the result is you give up a penalty. So it was unfortunate that it had to end that way. K-State still got plenty of shots on goal, a few very, very close to going in. But unfortunately, Vanderbilt was just able to find the back of the net on an easy one, and K-State just wasn't able to quite put it together and get a shot into the back of the net. But they played well on the road against an SEC opponent. First goal conceded, I believe, in a little bit.
It's the first goal since Green Bay, I think.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we've conceded a goal, so that was due to happen. And even then, that was a goal from a penalty kick, which is a lot different than pretty much any other type of goal. It's much easier.
Yeah.
Tough result for K-State on the road, especially holding them for so long. But a loss was bound to come at some point.
Yeah, I think that's sort of my stance on it. And it's not like this game was poorly played or we got purely outmatched. It's just we got unlucky with a penalty kick, which it's unlucky, even a shame, and it could have happened to anybody. But I'm not losing sleep over this loss. But the next match for your Kansas State Soccer Cats is this Sunday up against Nebraska, part of a double header between sports with Nebraska. We'll talk about the second sport we'll be facing them in a little bit later. Then, of course, next Thursday, they're going to be playing Memphis. Both of these will be in beautiful Manhattan, Kansas. So if you're not doing anything else on that Sunday, feel free to drop by, support the Soccer Cats and the Volleycats for their match as well.
Yeah, and that's part of an extended 4-game homestand from September 3rd through September 14th. So plenty of opportunities to get out and see the soccer team, including Socktoberfest against Cincinnati on September 14th. I don't know what that means, but it's probably really fun.
I would also imagine it's pretty fun. But like we said a little bit of time on soccer, but we didn't see the match, so can't really comment a lot. Now we can move on to volleyball and the tournament that the volleyball team played up in the Pacific Northwest, the Hotel Vance Rose City Showdown. What a name. And this was a clean sweep in favor of your Kansas State Wildcats in terms of victories, and only one of the victories was not a clean sweep in and of itself. And that was the first match up against Portland State. It was a 3-1 Wildcat victory. And a couple of notable leaders here in kills. Liz Grigorski and Aaliyah Carter both tied in kills with 10. Sydney Bolding coming in third with 7. In terms of aces, Liz Grigorski again with 2. Izzy Szulczewski. I love Polish names. Also with 2, and Sydney Bolding with 1. Blocks, Sydney Bolding with 6. Katie Fernholtz with 6. Izzy
Szulczewski.
I'm just going to point to you now every time I have to
Izzy
say
Szulczewski had 5 blocks.
And
Izzy Sholszewski had 41 assists. So really great job as the setter there in the middle. And then just a few, not even worth mentioning, for Mackenzie Morris and Liz Grigorski, because it was really Sholszewski doing everything. And then Sholszewski again with 22 digs, Mackenzie Morris 20, and Aaliyah Carter with 10.
Yeah. In terms of just team comparisons, like points obviously are pretty close. Kills, actually, Portland State had the advantage, which is interesting. K-State had the advantage in aces, 5-4. In terms of blocks, K-State really blew them out, and that's probably where the difference came in. 13-5 in favor of your Kansas State Wildcats. And then Portland State actually had the advantage in assists and digs. But I would say that this is a pretty encouraging first result, especially given, it's a new coaching staff and a lot of excitement going into the year with not only a new staff, but also a new arena going in. But you can go a little bit more into the individual attack stats and things like that.
Yeah. Most efficient on the day with a decently high number of attacks was probably Katie Fernholz, who had 7 kills on 13 attempts, just 2 errors. Leah Carter had 48 attack attempts, just 10 kills, and 6 errors, but then did have 10 digs, so being pretty versatile there, pretty valuable. Sholszewski had 3 kills and 5 attempts, no errors there, so really solid game all around for her. Sydney Bolding, 7 kills on 16 attempts. Those are kind of the major highlights. K-State had 22 block assists, and generally was dominant in that regard. And another way that they succeeded was also just forcing Portland State into errors. Portland State had significantly more errors. I believe they had 30 in this game in attack errors. So yeah, they did have 30. Just not the best day that you would want out of your attacking side. But all in all, K-State, outside of the first set, was pretty firmly in control of this game, and that's kind of how it would remain for the rest of the tournament. That first set more was an anomaly than anything, in hindsight.
Yeah. Which, speaking of the next games, the next match was up against San Diego State, and this was a 3-0 pretty dominant Wildcat victory. 25-14 in the first set, 25-13 in the second. The last set got a little competitive, 27-25, but that may have just been them fighting for pride at that point. But there's still a lot of notable stat lines here. Aaliyah Carter leading in kills with 14, Anaya Clinton with 10, Shaylee Myers with 9, 3 aces from Carter, 2 from Sydney Bolding, 1 from Liz Grigorski, 2 blocks from Sydney Bolding, 2 from Shaylee Myers.
1 from Izzy Sholszewski.
You can take over.
All right. Then 36 sets for Izzy Sholszewski. Mackenzie Morris with 4. Then Diggs. Mackenzie Morris led the way with 14. I believe she recently crossed a significant milestone with Diggs. I can't remember if it's like 1,000 or 2,000. But regardless, she just crossed a pretty significant dig milestone. Izzy Sholszewski, 8 digs, and Aaliyah Carter with 3. But yeah, this was a pretty dominant game. K-State hit 532 in this game, which is absolutely nuts. And, that's one of the highest hitting percentages I've ever seen. Also, San Diego State in that second set with one of the lowest hitting percentages I've ever seen, hitting 0.04.
That's tough.
Going 6 kills on 25 attempts with 5 errors. That is really unfortunate. But we can get into the individual stats now. But yeah, really a pretty dominant victory for the most part. Aaliyah Carter had a fantastic day here. 24 attack attempts led to 14 kills and 2 errors, just 2 errors. Anaya Clinton, 14 attack attempts, 10 kills, and then 2 errors. And Shaylee Myers, 14 attack attempts, 9 kills, 0 errors. So really impressive stuff there. Katie Fernholz, 7 kills on 8 attempts. Sydney Bolding, 5 kills on 9 attempts. A really, really, really impressive all around. Aaliyah Carter especially having an excellent day with 14 kills, hitting 500. Not much to complain about here at all. Aaliyah Carter added 3 service aces as well, and then also 3 digs. So really fantastic day for Aaliyah Carter. And we were able to rotate in a few others as well. Ava LeGrand and Brenna Schmidt were both able to get into a set. And all in all, this was a really excellent performance from K-State. A pretty dominant performance against a team that they should dominate against.
Yeah. And the last game of the tournament was up against Cal State Fullerton, which, if that sounds familiar, the baseball team has played them a few times. And this... You remember how tough the last game was for the opponent? This one might be worse. It was a 3-0 Wildcat victory. The sets went 25-7, owie, 25-21, respectable, 25-13.
Yeah, 25-7 is one of the biggest margins I've ever seen for K-State in volleyball against any opponent. So that's really, really impressive. They went the entire first set without committing an attack error as well. They hit 455 there. And then Cal State Fullerton, they had a negative hitting percentage in 2 of their 3 sets, including a minus .114 in the first set. Just absolutely abysmal. Clearly completely outmatched in every measurable way. Fullerton was in this match. Grigorski led the way in kills with 12. Bolding had 8. Myers had 8 as well. Grigorski again had 2 aces. Shorseski had 2 and Bolding had 1. Then Bolding with 8 blocks. Carter with 3. Nia Clinton with 3 as well. And Izzy Shorseski again had 24 assists. Mackenzie Morris had 6. Ava LeGrand had 3. And then Diggs, Shorseski again leading with 8. Mackenzie Morris tied with 8. And then Aaliyah Carter had 6. So Izzy Shorseski, the Oregon State transfer, really making her presence known early here. She also went 3 for 3 on attacks. So not attacking much, but was efficient. Added 2 aces. So really, really nice there. And Grigorski was 12 for 33 with just 3 errors. Going down the list, Shaylee Myers, 8 for 12, no errors at all. Aaliyah Carter only played in 2 sets. Looks like we were really emptying the bench here and trying to get more people in and rotate as much as possible. So it's tough to really take too much from here. Bolding, of course, had a ton of blocks, and I'm not really sure what else to say other than just complete domination. The only thing I'm really noticing is that from all of these games, Lauren Hinkle did not play, which she's normally our setter. So Shorseski kind of pulling double duty as a defender and then also getting in as a setter. Really, really impressive for Shorseski, wearing several different hats in this. K-State, again, sweeps. They come out of the tournament winning, how many sets? 8 sets in a row?
8 sets in a row.
Or 9 sets. 9 sets in a row. Because, well, they would have had to win 3 to win the first one.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
No, I did that. I made the exact same mistake you did.
Wait, which set did they lose?
The very first one.
Oh, so yeah, they did win 9 in a row.
Yeah.
You're right.
I did the exact same mistake that you made.
Math is not our strong suit.
No, it's not. Nah, that's why we're still in school.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, opening tournament series sweep. Good.
You cannot complain about that.
You could, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But the next match for your Kansas State Volleycats is up against Omaha. We will actually be in attendance.
We will.
Just our first game, or it's the first game in the new arena.
Yep. I was able to get a little bit of time in the arena when they scrimmaged there earlier in the summer, just a few weeks ago. Super, super nice. They didn't have the official court in the middle, so that'll be cool to see. I'm interested to see kind of some of the pregame stuff they do, if they're able to upgrade some of that experience. But I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard that this game is close to a sellout. It's 3,000 capacity. So if you want to go, get a ticket while you can, because they're going to be hard to come by. But I think a lot of people are really excited to see this match on Friday.
I am
too.
And then the Sunday match, it's up against Nebraska.
Yeah, well, that's still going to be a big match for K-State volleyball. That is sold out, and there were many measures taken to make sure it would not get stuffed with Nebraska fans, so they wouldn't buy out all the tickets. So I think pretty much every ticket was sold to a Hearn Fund member or to a season ticket holder. So it should be mostly, if not entirely, K-State fans that are there. So at least there will be home court advantage. It'll be a tough task for K-State, but just a couple of years ago, K-State did give Nebraska a really tough fight when they were also ranked this high. Of course, Nebraska riding a lot of momentum right now. They just had the highest attended women's sporting event in the history of the entire world. And
yeah.
so it's going to be tough sledding for K-State volleyball, but it's an awesome opportunity to learn a lot early in the season and maybe give Nebraska a run for their money. I think you take a set here and look conscious the rest of the time. That's pretty solid, I think.
I would take that.
Yeah. Of course, you're still playing to win. I think Jason Mansfield will be as well. And you always want to beat Nebraska. So
Always. But that is it for volleyball. But with that out of the way, before we get into the depth chart, here is a quick word from today's sponsor. And welcome back to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where we're going to be briefly discussing the K-State depth chart, just sort of going through position by position, saying if we're surprised, because we've already given our thoughts on the players themselves, so we'll just kind of go through the two-line here, tell you if we're surprised by anything. We're taking it as X receiver. Keegan Johnson, Xavier Lloyd, no surprise.
not at all. Not at all.
Left tackle, KT Leviston and Andrew Langang, not at all.
I was a little surprised to see Langang as the backup. I thought it might be John Pastore, but it's not a shock,
No.
I would say.
I wouldn't say it's surprising by any means. I would say it's more surprising that Langang is listed twice because left guard is Cooper Beebe and Andrew Langang.
Yeah, that I think is definitely a bigger surprise than Langang being listed at left tackle is the fact that he got listed twice, which I guess is a credit to Langang. And we know he's going to be a really good player for K-State, but still a bit surprising to see him listed twice instead of maybe seeing Pastore.
Yeah. Center, Hayden Gillum, Sam Hecht. Sam Hecht is the surprise here. Not really a big surprise. It's just sort of, wow, center, huh?
Yeah, his name's been getting a lot of run so far in camp. He's been brought up a ton as a former walk-on, or I think as a current walk-on, actually. But a lot of the coaches are really high on Sam Hecht, so he might be the next walk-on to earn a scholarship.
That's center.
Yeah, so which would continue the trend.
Yeah.
So,
The right guard is interesting because it's Hadley Panzer or Taylor Poitier. I thought it would just be Taylor Poitier, especially given all the hype that he's gotten for the past few years.
I figured there would be an or, but I figured Poitier would be listed first. I was a little surprised to see Panzer get listed ahead of him. I imagine that we see plenty of both because it does sound like they want to rotate the offensive line a lot, which is definitely a little strange because almost nobody does that.
Yeah.
But I guess our logic is that we have enough good offensive linemen that it's worth getting more guys in, which I will let them experiment with that as they will. They've had the right answers the last few years. So it's I have no issue with that.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it either. I just thought it was interesting. Right tackle, because Christian Duffy is out with injury. It'll be Carver Willis or Drake Beckwith. Which Beckwith surprises me because you and I both viewed him as a guard. I viewed him as a guard.
I will go on record saying that he came off as a tackle to me, but I'm still shocked to see him listed.
Yeah.
I did not think that he would be listed this quickly. I think we both liked his film more than we expected to when we initially did his film evaluation last year. But despite us both being pleasantly surprised by Drake Beckwith, definitely surprising to see him get onto the 2 deep. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll see him. I imagine we kick out BB before we see Beckwith take snaps. And then also congrats to Carver Willis. He has been around for a while. He's been through some difficulties and a lot of strife with this team. Got some run as a true freshman at left tackle. which
COVID year.
Yeah, that spoke to the depth at that position. So Carver's come a long way, it seems. I'm really excited to see the hard work pay dividends for him.
Yeah. Tight end, this one's just straight up fake. It's a lie. Because it says Will Swanson or Garrett Oakley. The number one tight end is Ben Sinnott, even though he's listed at fullback. They're keeping him at fullback for all Big 12 purposes. He's a tight end. So tight end 2 is Will Swanson or Garrett Oakley. I imagine Swanson's probably the blocker, Oakley the receiver, and then I guess tight end 3 at this point would be Braden Lofton.
Yeah, which Oakley, I'm happy that he's earned that "or" next to his name. You and I were both huge Garrett Oakley fans. Out of high school. I think he cracked maybe both of our top 5s in recruiting. I think he at least was in mine.
He was in yours. I think he was like number 7 for me.
Yeah, but we both thought very highly of him out of high school, and happy to see him showing up earlier than I think we thought, even though we both were very high on him. But he's put on weight. He's up to 230 now, and I think that he can make an impact as a receiver. Not a huge one because Ben Sinnott and Swanson are ahead of him, but I still think that we'll see him on the field this year.
Yeah. Fun fact, all 3 of the tight ends listed on the tight end depth charter from Nebraska.
That is a fun fact. I didn't even recognize that. Thank you, Ace.
No problem. We're going to skip that one for a minute and come back to it later. Ben Sinnott and Christian Moore, no surprise.
Yeah.
DJ Giddens or Trayshawn Ward, again, no real surprise there. Tony Frias, number 3. I imagine Joe Jackson's right on his heels.
Yeah. That's the only thing that was even worth considering, I think, at running back would Joe Jackson fully show out in camp to become that 3, or would it just be Tony Frias? I wouldn't have been shocked by either outcome, but it was worth considering. But it's been alleged that Tony Frias had a really, really good camp. So hopefully he can get some redemption this year.
Yep. Then I'd imagine this is slot wide receiver, Phillip Brooks, Shane Porter, or Jace Brown. So we can kind of puff our chests out a little bit on this, saying that Jace Brown was pretty close to a finished product for what he was going to be, and if he could contribute early, though he wasn't going to be the insane highest upside player. Maple has the zoomies, but he was going to be a consistent force, and him showing up this early on the depth chart, I think, verifies that.
Yeah. Even though I doubt we see him play meaningful snaps,
Probably.
the fact that he's on the depth chart does say something. And of course, it is surprising to see Shane Porter there. I think it's because Seth Porter is probably not going to be full go. Mm-hmm. But Shane Porter making it on was kind of surprising. It was kind of a sticker shock when I first read the depth chart. I was like, what is he doing here? but it made a bit more sense knowing that Seth is probably just going to focus on special teams for a bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Jace Brown making it on. Good for him as a true freshman. That's pretty exciting. And hopefully we get to see a bit of him if there is a good game for the offense. Knock on wood. But we'll see.
Yep. And then a Z receiver, it's RJ Garcia or Jaden Jackson. This was one of the disputed positions. I did project RJ to win the job, but I also kind of expected it to be an or.
Yeah. I think it is surprising that this isn't an or. I think I might have gone on record at one point saying I thought Jaden Jackson would win the job, which, of course, did not age well. Apparently, RJ Garcia had an unbelievable camp.
Oh, don't worry. That's not the only time that something is going to age poorly on this.
Oh, we have plenty of things age poorly here. One in particular that I think we're going to have trouble living down for a while. But that's part of the game. You throw a lot of takes out, you're going to miss. You know, not every take is a Will Howard take. So some of them are Jacob Parrish's, and some of them are even worse. But RJ Garcia, happy for him to get into the starting lineup. I hope to see a lot of Jaden Jackson still because I do think he has a lot of ability. So I'd like to see him get run. I imagine he's going to be first receiver off the bench.
Probably. I imagine he subs in at basically all 3 positions. So if I were to realistically make the receiver depth chart, it'd probably be Keegan Johnson, Phillip Brooks, RJ Garcia, Jaden Jackson, Xavier Lloyd, Shane Porter, and then Jace Brown.
I think that is exactly what I would do. If you were listing it like you would in like NCAA football.
Yeah, or like Madden, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like you just get a list. I think that's the list I'd put in.
Yeah. So, no really big surprises on offense. Nothing horribly surprising. All right, defense, here we go.
Do we want to talk about quarterback?
Oh, right, yeah. I actually did forget about that. Will Howard's the number 1 quarterback, but QB2 is interesting because it is Jake Rubley or Avery Johnson.
Yeah, that was particularly interesting, I thought. To me, that probably signals that we're going to be seeing some Avery, and to me that also says that Avery has been making supersonic progress throughout camp, which I think is awesome. I'm hoping that we get to see him. I know the coaching staff has said that they don't have a plan for backup. That I think that's a bold-faced lie.
Yeah, I think that's a lie.
And I don't mind. I'm totally fine with Chris Kleiman just lying sometimes. Scott Wildcat said he thinks he should do it more. I think I agree with Scott. Where Kleiman could probably lie a little bit more. And I'd be just fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd mind it. But yeah, I think that was probably the biggest surprise was seeing the or with Avery Johnson and Jake Rubley.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little shocking.
That's a future discussion point for after the game. But now moving on to the defense. The first group of defensive ends is Khalid Duke and Nate Matlick. I thought Nate Matlick will move to the other just to keep consistency. The other DN spot is Brendan Mott and Cody Stufflebean. Brendan Mott's listed on the 1 line and not Nate Matlick. And I'm thinking, the way I think of this is that if I had to guess, Matlick will probably be used more as a situational pass rusher, and Mott will be the more every down player, which technically makes Mott the starter. And it's not because Mott can't rush the passer, it's because his style is not quite as complementary to Khalid Duke as Nate Matlick's is. So I would sort of look at it as that first group of defensive ends that's listed, Duke and Matlick, would be your pass rushers. And the second group of defensive ends, which is Mott and Stufflebean, will be your more first, second down players.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I did kind of think going into the depth chart that we would see a Brendan Mott or Nate Matlick on one side of the ball, and then Stufflebean behind one of those guys, and then another backup, like maybe a GD Obiizor, or somebody else maybe. But instead we get them separated, but I still think we effectively have like 3 starters at the defensive end when you split up the snaps.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. Defensive tackle was Damian Ilalio or Javon Banks, which means that Uso might be out. Kleiman did say during the presser that he was practicing ahead of schedule. I'm not sure that I would put money on him playing. So it would be Damian Ilalio or Javon Banks. I think that's probably a true 50-50.
Yeah, I agree with you. They do play different roles. Damian Ilalio is probably going to be a better run stopper. Javon Banks has been said to have more speed, maybe a better pass rushing defensive tackle, kind of like D. Hentz was used in the past to a pretty effective degree. So if we can see those two team up pretty well, I imagine Uso could go in limited amounts if there's like an emergency. Yeah, but I don't think they want to play him very much.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. Let him be healthy for the later games. All right, Sam linebacker, Des Purnell on the 1 line, and then Toby Osunsanmi on the 2nd line.
This might be our favorite spot, or at least one of the most exciting spots, quietly, I think.
Yeah, I think quietly this may... Ooh, Will linebacker's looking good on the 1 and 2 line, though.
Yeah, it is, but I think that this one maybe is exciting for
different reasons. Yeah. Des Purnell apparently has been a rock star in camp, and he looked pretty solid towards the back end of last year.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see Des, fully develop. The thought of I've warmed up to the idea of Toby Osunsanmi at Sam, because initially I wanted him at Will because I thought the range would be better because he was basically a safety coming in, but he's put on weight. He's 233 now. No. I'm warming up to the idea of him being a Sam linebacker, especially just seeing him outspeed poor offensive tackles who don't deserve it.
Yeah, Desmond Purnell, yeah, there's been an unbelievable amount of hype around him. Chris Kleiman was really talking him up this week, kind of to an unusual amount. Like, we haven't heard Kleiman talk about guys that highly that much. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Des Purnell does. Another under the radar guy. He was kind of a late ad as a recruit. I think he was like a low end 3-star. Like, was kind of just like a throwaway recruit, I think, in the minds of most people.
Yeah.
But he's made the switch from safety to Sam and taken that in stride. And yeah, based off what we saw last year, I'm expecting a lot from him this year. And I think he's geared to live up to that. And then, of course, Toby, you and I have loved Toby Osinsami from the moment we watched his film.
He was our number 1 recruit, both of ours.
Yeah, that was a consensus number 1 pick, which I think we've had consensus both times. But
yes, we have.
Yeah, Toby O, we're really looking forward to seeing what he can do. We've been kind of on the train of Toby O kind of getting that Elijah Lee jet package sort of deal for several months now, and I think that's probably what we're going to see, and maybe some situational pass coverage just to get his feet wet at least. But I'm excited to see Toby O on a football field because he is just an athletic monster. And I think he's, especially against SEMO, just going to overwhelm some people.
Poor offensive tackles who don't deserve it. Moving on to middle linebacker, there are 3 names listed here. That's Daniel Green, Jake Clifton, and Austin Romaine. Daniel Green practiced a little earlier, but he may be another someone who's on a snap count because of injury. Jake Clifton on the 2-line, I'm not surprised at all. Austin Romaine is another big surprise, but not the biggest surprise on this depth chart. I've been staring at it the entire time. We'll talk about it in a minute, but no real surprises there.
No. I will say I did have a source that I trust say that they are not 100% sure if Daniel Green does play this week, and that it might be a bit. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go up in the air on that because the coaches have seemed pretty confident about Deuce Green playing. I imagine what's probably end up happening is it'll be somewhere in between where he's just kind of on a snap count and just not play as much. And Clifton probably takes close to starter snaps, which is totally fine by me because Jake Clifton was excellent last year as a true freshman. And he can play every position as well at linebacker. He's been taking snaps everywhere. And we saw some of that last year, too, with his positional versatility. And Austin Romaine is another huge miss for us.
Being fair, we had to go off of his junior film because he didn't put a senior highlight tape out.
That is true.
And his junior tape was not very good.
Yeah. So we still did miss. We can maybe justify it some.
We can't justify the other one.
No, the other one, it's just a straight-up miss, I think. And but
we have the same reasons for missing that we did Parrish, but it doesn't make it less of a miss.
Yeah. But Romaine, he got a lot of run at Big 12 Media Days all the way back in June or July, whenever that was. And maybe we see some of him against SEMO. Nothing would surprise me at this point with how the depth chart has kind of panned out defensively.
Yeah. Next is Will linebacker, and that is Austin Moore, Lewisburg Lightning, or the Machine, depending on whatever you want to call him, at Will linebacker. And then Asa Newsome or Bo Palmer at the 2 spot. Asa Newsome, the way that Kleiman made it seem is he's just too good to not play.
Yeah. That I feel like that doesn't surprise us very much. Mm-mm. His film was electric. He was an excellent athlete in football and in track. He's a really long athlete. He's got really long arms. He's super fast. I think he's an NFL player. Yeah. And I think Kleiman's, he's kind of alluded to it where he's kind of reached the point where if a guy's good, they're just going to play. And there's no point in like trying to hold on to red shirts when a lot of guys are leaving before 4 years anyways.
Yeah, or transferring.
Yeah, or transferring. So just play guys when you have them as early as possible. Asa Newsome, of course, will not pass Austin Moore. Austin Moore's really solidified that will spot, and he's going to be just fine. The Asa Newsome, I'm looking forward to seeing him play.
I am too. Quarterback, we did predict Jacob Parrish as being CB1, which ended up being true, and then Keenan Garber ended up being CB2 on that same line. No real surprises there. Strong safety. We did kind of get safeties. We got strong safety right, but we flipped Free and Jack. Kobe Savage is your strong safety with Matthew Mashmeyer. Fine. Jack safety. All right. Let's get it out of the way. VJ Payne starting. We got that right. Jack Fabris or Trey Krause on the 2 line.
If you had Jack Fabris in your depth chart,
You're lying.
And your name is not John Fabris,
You're
his
lying.
dad, then you are lying, and you should feel bad. But Jack Fabris, I think we both had him second to last
Yeah, he was
in our
second to
recruiting
last.
rankings. So we're just going to put that out there now that we completely whiffed on Jack Fabris as an eval. His film was good, but not at safety,
Yeah,
which is what he was recruited as.
He was a special teams guy.
Yeah, he was a special teams demon and seemed like he could be a good linebacker, but we weren't sure about the size. But I have heard from someone that has seen practice that he's a monster and one of the most coachable people that has ever lived on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And I think we see him this year. I don't think Jack Fabris redshirts, which is something I never thought I would say in my entire life. But I've gone pretty much complete 180 on hoping that his ceiling would be Ross Elder to this guy is going to play as a true freshman on a top 15 squad. So how the turntables with Jack Fabris. Trey Krause finding his way on there. There was some buzz about him being good out of high school. He's still kind of young. I think he's in year 3 now. So a little surprised to see him hit the depth chart, but it's not the most shocking thing, obviously. VJ Payne, that was expected.
Yeah.
Not a Jack. I think we thought he'd be Free.
Yeah, we thought he'd be Free, not Jack. But
Yeah,
I think because of the way they handle their safety rotations, that the two may be kind of interchangeable.
Yeah, but Jack Fabris at Jack safety, I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. No. But
it's because of his name. That's
yeah, it is because of his. I think maybe they just thought it'd be funny. But pretty unbelievable ascent for Jack Fabris. I'm going to be watching him very closely when he's on the field because I don't think I've ever been more intrigued in a career arc that's lasted maybe 3 months. So
Jacob Parrish for me.
I guess that's true.
Because I saw him get on the field exactly once, and I'm like, excuse me. Excuse me, he's not kick returning. Just to show you, we're not perfect.
No, not far from it.
We're just 99% perfect.
Yeah, well, okay. Sure, we can let them believe that.
No one believes that. But now on to free safety. Marquez Siegel is the first free safety, followed by Jordan Wright or Colby McAllister. The most interesting part about this is Siegel was listed as a junior transfer, not a senior transfer. So he could come back next year.
Yeah, he's not a senior. He was a sophomore last season. And so he's got this year, next year, and a COVID year available if he would like. So he could be around for a while. Coaches seem to think he's going to head to the NFL, though, after maybe a year or two.
I believe it.
Which is good for us. That means we've had a really good player. And it means that we have another guy in the NFL. So can't complain about that. Jordan Wright, happy to see him hit the depth chart. And Colby McAllister switched from corner to free safety. Those in the know already knew, but now it's public. And Colby, I bet we see a bit of him. Only disappointment, I guess, from safety is Daniel Cobbs didn't hit the depth chart.
Yeah.
But maybe we still see him. I guess it just remains to be seen.
Yeah, I agree. Finally, for defense, Will Lee, the Wildcat, is your second CB1, or I guess CB2 in this case. I don't know how they roll that out. And then Justice James will be your other quarterback. Rest in peace, Darrell Jones. He's not dead. He's just not on the depth chart.
Yeah, shout out to the corner formerly known as Justice Clemens, who had a pretty incredible comeback, too. He had a pretty serious back injury, I think, last year.
He had to have surgery on it in the first week.
Yeah. So it's really awesome to see him back on the depth chart. A lot of resiliency. So he and Kobe Savage are the two remaining players from the Tyler trio that signed with K-State over a year ago now.
Yeah.
So now they're both in defensive backfield. I'm looking forward to seeing Justice James play.
I am as well, especially because you've heard that he brings let's just say school spirit to the team.
And then Wildy, of course, is going to be incredible, I think. I'm very, very happy with our 1 and 2 corners. Wildy, I think, is as close to replacing Julius Brents as you can get.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah, because Julius Brents is an alien. He's not going to... You don't just get those.
Yeah, they don't grow on trees.
Yeah. Specialists, because specialists are people too. Field goal kicking belongs to Chris Tennant. And second line is Leighton Simmering or Simon McLennan. Not Leighton Simmering, as was incorrectly listed on the roster for like 2 years.
Yeah, they had that guy's name misspelled for a while, to the point where I think I actually started to believe it might be his name. And it is not. It is Leighton, not Leighton.
Chris Tennant as the first kicker. I understand that is going to create tension with some people. I urge them to hold judgment, if not just for their own sanity.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect from Chris Tennant other than we know he's got a strong leg. And we know he has experience. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 things that we know about him. I'm going to wait and see what happens with him kicking field goals and kicking extra points, and just see how the ball looks coming off his foot, because kicking, so much of it is mental. So let's just wait and see on Tennant. And if it doesn't go well, then, we've got guys behind him.
We got dudes.
Yeah.
Holders, Jack Bloomer, Seth Porter. Seth Porter's a bit of a surprise, but Jack Bloomer's been holding for a long time now.
Yeah, he's the guy. No questions asked.
Long snappers, Brandon Plattner or Mason Olgin?
Olguin, I don't know. Anywho.
I'm sorry, long snapper.
But yeah, Brandon, not a surprise. No. Perhaps the biggest super senior returner out of everybody. Maybe the most important, I suppose I should say.
I agree. Who else would steal the band instruments? But the punter will be Jack Bloomer. Again, not a surprise. Simon McLennan will be the second punter. Neither a surprise. Kickoff specialist, Chris Tennant, not a surprise. He has a missile for a leg. Simon McLennan second as well. Kick returner. This is interesting. Phillip Brooks and Keegan Johnson. Listen, I'm still holding out hope that Darrell Jones does something. Or Darrell Jones does something. And Jacob Parrish was also an amazing returner in high school. I don't hate that lineup. I don't hate it at all, actually. I think it's actually quite good. But, I am curious. Keegan Johnson almost has to be the up returner. He almost has to be. But,
Yeah, I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see how Phil does as the kick returner. We've not really seen him do that. He's been punt returner, which, spoiler alert, he is the punt returner.
Yeah.
And so Keegan, maybe we'll see a few kicks go his way a couple of times. Remains to be seen, I guess, but I don't know. I was maybe hoping for a surprise here, I guess, honestly. I was hoping to see like Darrell Jones or Jacob Parrish here. But
we just want to see Darrell Jones play, man.
Yeah, I think Darrell Jones would... I think he's athletic enough to play. He's just buried right now, which is really unfortunate. But Phil is super, 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 super experienced as a returner, so not super worried there.
Yep, and we already kind of talked about punt returners. Second line is Seth Porter. And that is the entire depth chart. So, all in all, pretty solid. We kind of talked through our thoughts as we went. So, now all it's needed to say is just we're excited for the game. Gonna be a hot one.
Yeah, it will be hot. Please drink water on Friday. Please drink water on Friday.
Please, God.
Do not wait until Saturday.
Do not wait until Saturday. Do not drink exclusively beer on Saturday. You will die.
Yeah. Luckily, the game is at 6, so that at least a lot of people will be in the shade by then. I'm very sorry to the upper deck enjoyers. Have fun.
I don't think that have fun is good advice. I think the advice of don't die is better.
Yeah.
But that wraps up the actual news segment of this episode. Now we can get into the wacky segment of the week, which is everyone's favorite segment. By everyone, I mean ours. So, for this week's segment is, say you're having a barbecue, and you can pick one K-State player to man the grill. Who's manning the grill for you, Connor?
That's easy for me. I'm saying Cooper Beebe. I think linemen come built in with excellent grilling abilities. With Cooper Beebe being the best lineman on the team, to me that implies he has the best grilling abilities. I think there's no doubt about that to me. And he also just looks the part of someone that can just
Have a good pit boss.
grill. He could grill a really good burger, smoke some pulled pork or something. I bet he can make some real good brisket. I don't know. I have high expectations for Cooper Beebe as a pit master, but we'll wait and see. What's yours, Ace? Who is running your tailgate?
See, mine was actually equally easy, and it more has to do with the parental lineage. That's Javon Banks.
Oh, yeah. That's a good pick.
Yeah, Javon Banks' father runs, I believe it's a food truck or some sort of restaurant that makes grilled food. I feel like that the transitive property applies there, and I feel like he's someone who would be pretty solid at manning a grill, manning a barbecue pit, making sure everyone gets there. Gets probably overfed because that's just the way it is in the South. I've been there several times. Especially in Mississippi, they will not stop. they refuse to stop piling your plate. But I feel like it's a pretty solid competition there, Cooper Beebe, Javon Banks.
Yeah, I think we'd probably see different types of food as well.
You'd see crawfish for Javon Banks, I imagine.
Beebe, I think we'd probably see some classic burgers and dogs, but maybe some ribs or something like that.
Probably get a strip steak.
Yeah, I bet we would. But I don't know. I have high hopes for both of those gentlemen. I would not be opposed to having either of those guys cooking for my tailgate. I say that like I have one. I don't have one.
But we don't have one. Maybe one year we'll have the official Aggieville Alleycats tailgate.
That could potentially be fun. But that's a ways away from happening.
That is a very long ways away from happening.
Many things have to happen before we can do that.
Yeah. Unless someone wants to, I don't know, let us brand their tailgate for no money because we are poor.
Yeah, I guess if it was a situation that was only beneficial to us in every way, then I guess we could do it.
You have any final thoughts, Connor?
I'm super, super, super excited for football. I cannot wait. It's going to be agonizing going through the day on Saturday. Luckily, we have a lot of stuff that can fill the day up. And then, of course, there's that volleyball game the night before. So there's a lot of stuff going on to keep us occupied.
Yep. I agree. That's all I'm going to say. So thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us on Twitter, Threads, or Instagram at Aggieville Alleycats. If you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I'm at ACEdward00.
I'm at Connor Baltazar, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store. That's AggievilleAlleycats.myspreadshop.com to buy such designs as the beautiful crew neck that Connor is currently wearing that no one can see, so I don't know why I even mentioned he was wearing it. And established Alleycats, and shame could have happened to anybody.
We can post it on the Twitter.
Yeah, we can do. It's very comfortable.
It is very comfortable. I highly recommend it. And I have no personal stake in me doing that.
But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.